Chapter 8 Reflections in the Water. The scribes stared into the well, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. Sometimes images seemed to form in the darkness that looked familiar, whether the scribes remembered it or not. From the looks of it, this reflected world, it stretched beyond just this well. There was more beneath their world. The old data was still ever present as always, but it couldn't be touched anymore. Not by their usual methods. So, what on earth could be changing it? And what could that change ever mean for them? Each scribe was deep in thought. Grimora stepped away from the well, trying to keep her demeanor up. She didn't know what was happening, which was giving such a thing form just beyond darkness. But she knew that the horrible things this could mean. But she dared not speak. Leshy stared at the well. It was there. The old data was finally in sight. But it would now be a matter of simply getting it. If the well would not work, they would need to find a new way. But nothing came to the old man. Magnificus studied the shapes, the patterns that continued to form in the darkness. Faces, words, familiar things. Yet he couldn't piece them together. It was all jumbled nonsense. Yet, he knew there were secrets in the old data. Things that had driven others mad. But he could not see them. Yet one of them remained focused and finally spoke up, snapping all of them out of their trance. Okay, I know this is all freaky and stuff, but what are we actually gonna do? Some weird stuff's happening down there. Leshy stepped away from the well and looked towards the bot.
If our old data is there, we have our answer for a plan already. Our problems will be solved simply. We take it, and we return to how things were.
Grimora was about to speak up, worry making her face paler than the dead she looked over, but she found herself interrupted by the robot. And how are you planning on getting it? His smug expression returned. Are you about to jump down that well or dive to the bottom of the ocean? The monitor returned to normal. Of course we want it. It's the only thing we do besides sitting and waiting to see what happens. That's not a plan.
Then we go into the ocean.
Magnificus's voice echoed through the room as he finally stopped studying the waters. I literally said that as a joke.
Not diving, but this reflection. If it is where the old data once was and we wish to study it further, we need a method to go down there. It is the only way forward. I feel it in my eye.
Saying stuff about your eye doesn't make us want to believe you more, P03 said with a blank expression, quickly continuing before either of the old men got angry. But yeah, I guess it's our only way there. But how do we do it? You're all animals who need air, and me and water don't do so good together. Unless Leshy wants to jump down a well, I don't see a way. Thankfully, neither of them spoke up to start an argument, as instead they began to think hard. None of them had the resources left to make a solution to this problem. Leshy wouldn't have had them to begin with. Grimora could have gotten counsel from Royal, but he was gone. Magnificus's magic was weaker than ever. He couldn't do it on his own. And P03's factory was breaking down with little to no hope of making something big enough for this. Except...
P03, your late dredger and his machine.
Magnificus spoke up.
That is our key. It is the perfect base to turn into what we need for the rest of that factory. We may dismantle it and it shall finally make itself useful.
Excuse me, what? Oh, I see. First you hack my machine with your gross magic, then you deny it, and then you come back and suggest that I tear down the whole machine that gives me a shot to make this game a little better, not having a clue if I'll get it back? Not a chance. I've got enough with my factory to get through this. I'm not getting rid of my chances entirely. Leshy stepped between them.
You have not given any more than the rest of us. We have lost those dearest to our hearts, yet you act as though your cards being worse can compare in the slightest, and still you accuse of anything that will happen to you. You wretched... I understand your rage, scribe of beasts, but now is not the time. Convince him. Do not argue.
Magnificus stared at him as his eyes glowed with its spirals. Leshy nodded slowly as he took a deep breath, turning back to see P03 still as passive-aggressive in their expression.
The most important thing is that even if this was some way to make sure you cannot take over, it will not matter if we do not get to the old data. Perhaps you may have to delay your vision for a better game. But if you refuse, you will never get a chance at it. Accept these losses, P03. I doubt you have any ideas on how to reach it despite your smugness.
P03's monitor flickered, as if they were about to speak up, but they fell silent with only the same passive-aggressive look. Fine. We'll use the dredging machine. But I'm not just giving without getting. When we find that data, it's mine. Got it? Although he didn't have a choice, the bot still attempted to bargain. Leshy raised an eyebrow, holding his tongue as he looked to the old wizard for counsel. Despite how hard to read the grassy mage could be in their facial expressions, Leshy understood immediately his answer to P03's demand.
We shall see. Our race is not decided yet. We will see who earns it.
P03's expectantly flickered to exaggerate expression. Cheapskates. What, you just scared the new cards I made will make our player like Bartopia more than you...
Have you not only been complaining about how bad of cards you've gotten since your last run?
The mage tilted their head as if they were simply asking curiously, and not hoping to crush the rod's pride. Shut up. He began to float for the exit. It might take a bit, but it should have all the parts for some something that shouldn't kill you. Should be done before the player gets back, so thank God— Wait. Grimora finally broke her silence, her shaky voice filling the crypt. She managed to stay in the shadows, avoiding the gaze of the others, but when they finally saw her pale skin, her twitching features, and how terrified the poor woman looked.
Grimora, are you...
Leshy, are you sure we should go through with this? I don't feel as if that was the right move. She looked away once more as she stared into the well. This feels wrong.
What do you mean?
Look at what's down there. I don't feel right when looking at it. It makes me sick to my stomach, and I've never felt these things before, but I can't help but feel as though whatever is down there, perhaps it's better if we don't face it. I fear what might happen to us, what it could do to us. Grimora couldn't keep eye contact with them. She begged and prayed they'd understand, but to them, this was nothing more than a glitch in the old data, no more than a tool. If only they knew what she did, what they could be inviting. What are we supposed to do? Sit around and wait to disappear because you're scared? Do you really prefer that? P03's voice was harsh, and like the rest, they scared Grimora down. The scribe of the dead paused for a moment, not able to answer the most obvious question. For her, it was a hard choice to make. Oh, for God's sake. No. We're finding it. Get out of your weird mood. I like you better when you're not depressing. Stop thinking about dying, you idiot. P03 began to leave once more before Leshy or Magnificus could yell at him for his tone. Give me a day and I'll be done. Grimora was left standing by the well, staring down into the well as she looked more hurt than either the other scribes have ever seen her.
Grimora...
Don't worry about me, Leshy. I'll be fine. She took in a deep breath. Perhaps P03 is right. Perhaps I'm simply overthinking all this, being too emotional over what's down there. It can't hurt us. Even if it could, it's our only option. All right. She stood up and looked towards the other two, giving a weak smile. We'll go down tomorrow. There's nothing to fear. Oh, there was something to fear. Grimora knew that better than anyone else. It would only end in pain for all of them. But she pushed it deep down. All those memories, all those visions? No, it couldn't get in their way now. The other scribes were counting on her. They were counting on a liar. But they didn't need to know. Just keep smiling. Be there for them.
Are you sure, Grimora? This... I feel it too. What you mentioned. I feel a premonition. An awful one. It is our way towards the old data, but... Is it right?
It'll be fine, Magnificus. That old eye has been wrong many times before. Worrying will get us nowhere. She looked towards Leshy. You two should prepare. Gather what you need from your temples. Then we'll all be ready for a little trip. Grimora kept on the smile as she went to her usual spot in the crypt. Magnificus and Leshy looked towards each other as simply exchanged a nod before parting ways, each to their own temple. Everyone prepared for a dive down. The factory whirred with life, no longer at the slow, clunky pace it was when making bots. Turns out P03's automated systems were way better at scrapping bots than making them. As the belts moved the other way around, being smelted down and dumped next to the bot as they worked on the dredging machine. He already had an excellent way to make this thing work, as he had managed to change the claw into a diving bell that would just barely fit all of the scribes. He almost ran out of parts trying to make it big enough for that beast Leshy. Just jamming on a rope would be good enough to let it go to the bottom of the sea. Maybe he could keep that design to make his dredger better? He'd focus on getting Botopia back later. He still had to focus on fixing up some kinks so he wouldn't get short-circuited by water. Oh, and so the others wouldn't drown too, he guessed. But the bot was snapped out of their focus as they heard the lift coming down. Great! Someone else to interrupt them. It was way too early to be the scribes coming from the meeting. Was it Leshy coming to argue about what they said yesterday? Or was it Grimora looking to talk about that too? P03's anger subsided for a moment as they looked up. He wasn't looking forward to any of those options. But instead, he saw the one person he wasn't expecting. Magnificus. The robot paused in their work and simply stared at the painter, who looked back without saying a word. You need something, hot boy? I ain't in the mood for a staring contest. The robot went back to work, welding some of the pieces of the diving bell together.
I need nothing. I simply came to discuss yesterday's events. There is a discussion we must have.
Look, if you want an apology, you came to the wrong bot. I said what I needed to. End of
Let me finish my sentence, you machine! That is not what I want, because I am in agreement with you. Grimora's words were concerning. I would not come to you with my thoughts if I could, but Leshy does not see this as concerning.
Huh. Wasn't expecting that. The bot was now listening intently as they hammered away at nails and secured bolts.
This is unlike her. Grimora, despite our differences, has always been one we can trust. So for her to act so strangely suddenly, I feel a premonition. A very, very bad one. And I cannot tell whether it is because of what we have seen, or because of her. So, I must ask, what do you truly think, machine? I hate to entertain the possibility, but could Grimora be hiding some intent from us?
First off, I have a name, and secondly, P03 finally paused their work again to turn and look towards the mage. I don't know. Grimora's the only one of you three I even like. She actually listens and isn't a total buzzkill. But all her talk about not doing this and just letting it all die it ain't her. She's hiding something. But unlike you or Leshy, I know she isn't gonna backstab me. So whatever it is, it can't be as bad as what's down there. Talk about that stupid eye of yours too much, so stop worrying about it.
It was so many things, including your little great transcendence plan. It has never been—
Yeah, exactly. It pinned my great idea as some threat. And all your eye did was get my head ripped off. So shut up about it already. Do something useful for once and get the others. I finished early with the diver. It was time to dive into the old data of Inscryption. It was time to see what was on this thing.